Hello crafters, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. I have been doing a lot of hot foil stamping lately, and I've come across some really cool tips and tricks to help me make better cards and make cards faster. And I thought it would be a good idea to put together a video sharing those tips with you. I know how much you loved my previous video sharing 5 hot foiling tips, and I hope that this video will be just as useful. Now, there are timestamps in the video description if you'd like to jump ahead to a specific tip or portion of the video. And if you'd like to see more informative videos on either of the tips that I'm sharing today, let me know in the comments below. Also, if you guys have problems foiling, if you encounter some sort of difficulties, let me know what those are. It is comments from you that help me come up with new video ideas. Now, this video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for people like you and me. They offer thousands of inspiring classes on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and lots more. I actually just finished watching a class from Skillshare, a beginner class. I'm interested in photography, and I came across this DIY product photography style and shoot creative stills. And I love the creative approach to taking photos of ordinary objects. I love how the photos in this class, they're not just a photo. I love how they tell a story and how the photographers inspire with their photographs. And the content on the Skillshare platform is curated specifically for learning. There are no ads, and Skillshare, they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. And it is less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. Now, because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, you can get a free trial to Skillshare with the link in my description. So go ahead and click that link and let me know in the comments below what class you're watching. I'm very curious to learn. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. Now, I'm working with the Sweet Blooms Border Glimmer Hot Foil Plate from Spellbinders, but you can use any other hot foil plate that you have in your stash. This is a pretty little border that takes about a half of an A2 card, so about a half of 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel. And my goal is to make a set of cards using this plate, so I know I'll need to foil it multiple times for all the ideas that I have in mind. And that's where that mass production with the hot foil stamping comes in. First of all, when I know I will be foiling the same image multiple times, I want to prep my paper, so pre-cut the paper that I will be foiling on, and also pre-cut my foil to size. These are the things that make the process go a little bit faster. Recently, Spellbinders came out with a fabulous little tool called Quick Trimmer, and this is basically a cutter designed to help you cut your foil to size. Now, I do have a separate video about this trimmer where I go in depth about the trimmer and how to use it. I have linked it right here. Do watch it if you haven't already. I'm using matte gold foil for my projects today. It is my new favorite color foil. I don't know why I didn't like this foil before. Before, I would just use gold pretty much all the time, or maybe like polished brass or champagne foil. But now, this is basically the only foil color that I want to foil with. And I'm actually down to a pretty small size of this foil. I need to reorder this particular color because I use it so much. Now, for my first card, I want to foil this border twice to have a full card background. And then to do that, I need to use my hinge method and tape the plate in the exact spot on the paper. I do share the hinge method in my previous hot foil stamping tips video, so do check it out if you're new to foiling and if you have no idea what I'm talking about. I have my white cardstock panel. I positioned my piece of foil. I placed my plate over the foil on the paper and taped it in place using low-tech tape. This is just regular washi tape. You can use whatever you have on hand. Now, while I was chatting, my Glimmer machine has turned off automatically. The machine does have an auto shut off feature, and after a couple of minutes of inactivity, it shuts off. This is just a safety feature designed to protect you so, you don't have a fire starting off accidentally. To restart the machine, you need to flip the switch on the back of the machine to turn it off. So flip it once and then flip it again to turn it on. And my machine is good and ready to go. It's nice and hot. The second light has turned green, and that tells me that I can go ahead and start foiling. Now, with the paper that I'm using today, this is brand new paper for me, and I'm still testing it, so I can't share more about it just yet. But with this new brand of paper, I like to add a sheet of scrap paper to my glimmer to protect that paper that I'm foiling on. So I just use whatever scrap paper I have on hand. I usually cut it or tear it to size of my panel and place it directly on the Glimmer hot foil machine surface. You don't need to do this if you're using your regular cardstock. I've added my plate with the paper, and now I'm adding my shims. Now these are well loved and well used. I do use them quite a lot, and you can see that I have a lot of leftover foil on them. Now, the way I like to foil, I also like to add a cardstock shim. That's because this is what works best for my die cutting machine, but every machine is a little bit different. And if you're new to foiling, I do encourage you to try and foil without the shims first. Try that, see if that works, and then if you feel you need to add a shim, then go ahead and add the shim. I've pressed the timer button, and now I have about a minute before my plate is hot enough and ready to foil. I can bring my die cutting machine in and chat for a bit with you guys. So the machine that I'm using is a deep sea die cutting machine. This is the same machine as the Platinum 6 from Spellbinders. Okay, the light has stopped flashing, and that indicates that my plate is ready to foil. I'm going to take the platform out of the docking station and slowly send it through my die cutting machine to foil. With this new paper that I'm testing, I find it is enough to send it through the machine just once. So I'm just sending it forward. I'm not bringing it back. Now remember to dock your platform in the docking station so that it remains hot, and let's take a look at our piece. So remove that piece of scrap paper, remove the plate, peel the foil, and oh my goodness, looks so pretty. I love the softness of the matte gold foil. It looks just stunning. So like I mentioned, I want to do a full background for this card. So I'm positioning the plate on the panel. I'm taping it in place with a piece of low-tech tape. This is what I call the hinge method. I'm lifting the plate up slightly. I'm sliding the pre-cut foil in and putting the plate back into place. Just going to fuss around a little bit to make sure that I have the foil positioned correctly, and back to my glimmer machine and back to foiling this background. Fast forward a bit and ta-da! That looks stunning. So we foiled the background using this border. Now I want to foil this several more times on separate panels so that I can use just a border or cut out a part of this border to dress up my cards. And this is where the mass production with hot foiling comes into play. What I have found is when you foil the same design over and over again without moving the plate from the glimmer system, the plate gets hot enough so that there's no need to heat it up for that 1 minute every single time you go to foil a new piece of paper. There's no need for that last step, and that saves a lot of time if you need to foil something multiple times. Now, if you remember this poinsettia card that I shared back in fall, this is how I foiled all of those poinsettias. I did not wait for that 1 minute every single time I wanted to foil poinsettias on a new piece of cardstock. I just foiled them right away. And just imagine how long that would have taken me if I waited for 1 minute to foil every single flower. It probably would have taken me hours. Instead, I did this. Place the plate on the glimmer system and press the timer to heat that plate for the first time. While it is heating up for the first or the second time in my case, you can work on other things such as cutting foil, cutting paper, tidying up your desk, anything else. You can even go and make yourself a cup of coffee. So you do have to wait for the plate to heat up for the first and the second time. You really need to get the plate good and hot, And this is what will allow it to foil repeatedly without you having to reheat it completely every single time. So you add your foil, you add your paper, bring your die cutting machine, add your shims on top, take the platform out of the docking station and send through the die cutting machine to foil. I just send it forward. I don't even roll it back. Then do dock the platform so that it remains hot. Remove the shims and take a look at the paper, peel that foil and enjoy your beautiful result. We can foil the next one right away. That's the beauty of this technique. Add your pre-cut piece of foil, add the paper. Notice how we're not waiting for the lights to turn green. Not even the second light was green. So we're skipping the waiting period and foiling right away. Fast forward a little bit and let's take a look. It foiled so perfectly. Let's repeat again. Add the foil, add the paper, add the shims. This time the second light is green. I mean the glimmer is heating up a bit when it is docked, but we're not spending the time reheating the plate as there's really no need. The plate is quite hot. Now we're not removing the plate from the platform. And the plate isn't really losing any heat, maybe just a little bit of heat when we are sending it through the die cutting machine, but otherwise the plate remains quite hot. And this is one of the key things to this technique. Do not remove the plate from the platform. See, I'm doing it again. I added the foil, I added the paper, I added the shims, I send it through the machine, and boom, foiled perfectly. For this next piece, I want to foil this border horizontally on my panel, and I want to foil it twice on the background. I've rotated the plate, I added my foil, I added the paper. That's actually why it's so handy to have that scrap piece of paper under the plate. That helps to align the paper that we plan to foil on our background. That's actually a tip that I picked up from Tina Smith. I love her videos. And again, add shims, send through the machine, and check out the gorgeous results. I'm going to flip the plate and position it on the other side of the panel now. Now, the plate is hot, so do be careful. Maybe use your tweezers when you pick it up, or you might burn your fingers slightly. Add the foil, add the panel. I'm just double checking here to make sure that I add everything correctly. Then add the shims and send through the machine to foil again. And boom! Looks fantastic, doesn't it? So this is basically the mass production with hot foiling. The key takeaways are: keep the plate on the glimmer platform, heat it up 2 times using the timer function and button, and foil. Any consecutive foiling can skip using the timer function or button and foil right away. And enjoy your gorgeous foiled results. Since I had my glimmer machine out, I was in the mood to play, and I went ahead and foiled an additional background using another stunning glimmer plate. This is Diamond Netta background plate. And this plate is designed to be foiled multiple times to create a full card background. Here I foiled it twice to have an almost full A2 card background, and my plan was to use one of the floral borders and layer that on top of this background. And check out this beauty. I love how classy this looks. So perfect. Just looking at this, I feel inspired to make cards. I also foiled several sentiments for my cards because remember, I want to make a set of cards, and I used the same matte gold foil, and sentiments come from the Heart Melt Sentiments set. The sentiments actually all have coordinating dies, so I'll die cut them out later to use for my cards. Next, I worked on putting my cards together. I started by coloring the foiled images using my Copic markers. I really like to combine foiling and Copic coloring. I think that gives such stunning, unexpected results. I used YG67, YG63, and YG03 markers to color the leaves green. Now this is one of my go-to Copic marker color combos, and I went for a flick style coloring. This is the style of coloring where you color in the end result, you have visible flicks or brush strokes on the image. So I simply flicked the color onto the paper without blending the colors together. I started with the darkest, I flicked it, then added the medium, flicked that color, and then came in with the lightest color and used it to color the rest of the leaf shape in. Next, to color the flowers, I used pinks and the same exact approach. I started with the RV34, my darkest pink, added RV11, my medium pink, RV10, light pink, and also used RV00 as the lightest color. I used this technique and these same colors to color all of the panels that I foiled. So lots of coloring happening there. For the first project, I just added a panel of craft cardstock to an A2 white side folding card base. Now I am adding gray here. You are seeing gray, but I am saying that I added craft. So I first added gray and then I changed it up to craft later. I trimmed the foiled and colored panel to 4 1/8 of an inch to 5 3/8 of an inch and foam mounted that to my card base. I also foam mounted the sentiment. I used one that reads, "For my beautiful friend." And lastly, I embellished this card using the gorgeous gold dots. I love how well they work with the foil. They're like sequins, perfect little embellishments, except they aren't sequins. They're dots, and they're quite dimensional too. I really like to use them. I wanted to decorate the inside of this card. Now, this is something that I hardly ever do, but since I had quite a few of those foiled and colored borders, I decided I could use one of the borders on the inside of the card. So I just cut it out and used glue to adhere on the inside of the card for something a little extra. I love it when the inside matches to the outside of the card. It really makes it quite special and unique. Next, I used scissors and cut out one of the borders as I wanted to place that over that diamondetta background. I wish there was a coordinating die for this border, but sadly there isn't one, so I had to use scissors. But it wasn't too difficult to cut it out. This border is not too terribly detailed. I trimmed the border using my paper trimmer so that the foiling was going all the way to the edge, and then I foam mounted the border onto the card. I decided this was going to be a landscape top folding card. I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to add the sentiment. I thought about adding it over the flowers, but I didn't really want to cover the coloring and foiling, so I decided I would better place it over the diamondetta background in the lower center portion of the card. I didn't want to use gold dots for this card. I do love them, but I felt like I had quite enough of gold already. Instead, I reached for my Nuvo drops from Tonic Studios in pink and added a small pink dot over each foiled dot on the background, and the dots are carnation pink. I love how that ties in with the pink coloring on the flowers, although honestly, I think white dots would look stunning here as well, or maybe even clear dots. For my last card, I die-cut a circle from craft cardstock. I foam mounted the sentiment over that craft cardstock, so we already have a double layer of foam adhesive, one layer under the circle and one layer under the sentiment. Next, I used the other foiled cutouts. This time, I had cut out individual flowers and I placed them around the circle. The idea here was to cover up the seam in between the two foiled borders that I had on the background. I didn't color the background. I kept it as is, just the foiling, but I did add the color to the card using these cut out flowers. I love the simplicity of this card and all of that foiling as well. It's so classy. I added the pink dots to tie in with the pink coloring, and that finished my card. I hope you found this video useful. If you make a card or cards inspired by this video and the mass production foiling technique, I would love it if you shared your project online and tagged me on social media. I always love seeing what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!